Season 2 of the Solo Leveling anime has gotten its first official trailer, and so I thought it was a good time to cover what fans can expect to see in the upcoming Season 2. As such, this video will contain a ton of spoilers for upcoming Solo Leveling content, so there's your warning. Season 1 covered about the first 3 volumes of the manhwa, and was such a massive success that it wound up breaking multiple records and garnering high viewership. The premiere episode alone surpassed the viewership benchmark set by long-standing series like One Piece, and also achieved the milestone of becoming the only anime to have 100,000 Crunchyroll user likes on its initial episodes. If you've been under a rock, Season 1 of the Solo Leveling anime concludes with Sung Jin-woo completing his job change quest to become a necromancer, and the debut of the much anticipated first ever Arise with Ygritte the Blood Red. Now, before we proceed, this video took me about 12 hours to make, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you liked the video, and helped it hit our goal of 1,000 total likes. Also, subscribe for more Solo Leveling content, and share the video with your friends if they're also interested in Season 2. At the end of Season 1, we were kind of teased for what to expect in the upcoming season, as the anime has a post-credit scene that teases the Jeju Island arc, where the strongest hunters will face their biggest challenge yet in their all-out brawl against Meruem and his friends on Jeju Island. Okay, maybe not those type of ants, but you get the point. So obviously leading up to that, we have the events of Volume 4. And for the record, I'm expecting Season 2 of the anime to cover Volumes 4, 5, and 6, if it's only about 12 to 13 episodes like Season 1 was as well. As far as I can tell, there is no official announcement for how long the upcoming season will be. Maybe it winds up being 24 episodes, I don't know. Anyway, in Volume 4, we are formally introduced to Song-yi, a friend of Jin-woo's younger sister Gina, and having heard about Dong-suk, Dong-soo is still in hot pursuit of Sung Jin-woo and finally returns to Korea. Song-yi, Jin-woo, and others such as Kim Chul and Park Hee-jin ultimately wind up getting trapped within the vaunted Red Gate. Within the Red Gate, we see a ton of action which culminates with the arise of another 2 main shadows in Sung Jin-woo's army, those being Tank and Iron, and Jin-woo's fated battle against the gate boss Barca. Upon exiting, Baek Yoon-ho and Jin-woo clash for the first time. And this part of the story is kind of interesting because using his abilities, Baek is able to perceive how strong Jin-woo is, and he gauges that he's still a tick stronger. But that's interesting because ultimately later on, Baek winds up being the one to let us know that Jin-woo is actually a hunter that can level up and get stronger. Now we, the readers, already knew that, but it's interesting to see the characters in universe figuring this out. Anyway, shortly after Baek and Jin-woo, on the east of the United States, we are introduced to a mysterious man who is said to have been a Korean hunter that was living within a dungeon for about 10 years. More on that later. We then are informed a bit more about Jeju Island and the events there as the series attempts to set that raid up. We wind up spending the next few volumes setting this raid up, by the way. Anyway, Sung then makes his return to the Demon Castle, levels up a ton, and then returns. Meanwhile, we find out the mysterious man was actually Jin-woo's dad all along, and he makes short work of Dong-soo. I thought this was particularly fun because everyone hates Dong-soo, right? The Hunter Association then attempts to reevaluate Sung Jin-woo, and with him being deemed an S rank, the volume ends with him meeting Hunter Association President Go. In Volume 5, Jin-woo declines all advances and still masquerading as an E rank decides to work in dungeons as a miner with an E. At this time, we meet Cha-hae-in, the Vice Guild Master of the Hunters Guild, and love interest to Sung Jin-woo. She's an S-rank hunter that can't stand to be around pretty much any other hunters due to some odor they emit. But not Jin-woo, that is. Shortly thereafter, Jin-woo joins a raid as an S-rank luggage carrier. Surely this will just be a regular job, right? Of course not. This whole portion culminates into a showdown between Sung Jin-woo and the mighty shaman, Cargogon. Along the way, we are teased yet again about who Sung really is, and this mysterious voice all monsters hear when they're spawned. Anyway, this fight eats about half the volume, but ultimately a new shadow is born, baby. Afterwards, a few days pass, and it is made public that Jin-woo is Korea's 10th S-rank hunter. He returns to the Demon Castle from floor 76. We are then introduced to the Demon Noble and Knights, and an evolved ant finally makes its move to conclude Volume 5. Now, if you're still with me, I'd like to take this time to ask again for your support. If you happen to play Solo Leveling Arise, please support me through the Content Creator Program, which is linked down below in the description. It helps tremendously for both of us. I can give you free gifts as well in your gift box. Anyway, in Volume 6, which is the final volume I'm expecting to be adapted, we right away meet the Demon Noble Isil, Essel? Izzle. Huh. She tells us all about the castle, the demon clans, some mysterious war, and before she could finish her explanation, she's silenced by the system and faints. We saw this before. Izzle winds up being his guide, though, throughout the remainder of the tower, all the way up to floor 100, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Meanwhile, we're introduced to national level hunters. Yeah, there's a level above S, if that wasn't already clear. I know up to this point, S ranks seemed like a lot, but they're really not all that crazy when compared to the stuff that the series has in store from this point forward. In fact, it's kind of funny how crazy the series gets in relation to our typical S rank hunters up to now. With the increased threat of the ants, President Go is putting together a strike team featuring a huge chunk of the strong hunters we've met so far. This is important because while this incident initially took place on a remote island that they could ignore, that's no longer the case since the ants have evolved to gain wings and intelligence, and this threat will eventually make its way to the mainland. Afterwards, Korea is visited by the mega-strong Japanese Guild of the Drawn Sword, and we are introduced to Ryuji, one of the strongest Asian hunters. Meanwhile, Jinwoo makes it to the top of the castle and is greeted by Demon Monarch Baran, and just like everything else, this too turns into an all-out brawl. Jinwoo is ultimately victorious. He reaches level 97 and is able to finally craft the Elixir of Light. By the way, he also steals Baran's wyvern. After Jinwoo leaves the dungeon, we are introduced to S-rank healer Min Byung-gu and told a little bit about why he retired from being a hunter. Afterwards, Jinwoo gives his mom the Elixir. All the S-ranks from Korea and Japan meet, gauge each other's strength, and of course, Jinwoo gets into a brawl again where things get pretty crazy with Ryuji. Oh, by the way, the Jeju Island Reign finally begins! And unfortunately, Sung Jinwoo declined to join. At first, the hunters appear to have the upper hand, as their goal is to eliminate the queen, but things can go very badly, very fast. And this volume ends with us finally seeing Beck fully transformed into a magic beast. Now here's where things are a bit weird. This isn't really the best cliffhanger to end a season on in retrospect. So they could push to adapt Volume 7 as well, which features the climactic fight against the King of the Ants. However, I think if they're going to do that, at that point, it may just be a good idea to let the show push for 24 episodes and adapt all the way through Volume 9 if that's the case. However, in the interest of giving us the best quality anime and making the most money over the longest period of time, I doubt they would do that. So, in all honesty, it may be possible that they end this season upon the arrival to Jeju Island before the hunters begin their raid and all that fun stuff leading up to the Magic Beast transformation for Baek Yoonho is even shown, and they save all of that for Season 3. What do you think they'll ultimately wind up doing? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe, and if you're as big a fan of solo leveling as I am positive you'll enjoy the video on your screen right now.